Good morning, Northshore Cabinet. It is now April 3rd and our Friday before spring break. So it's a time to check in before we take our spring break this coming week. And during spring break, we won't have full cabinet online meetings. I'll be checking in each morning, but we have a lot of other spring break duties and opportunities for staff also to get away a little bit. So this morning, let's hear from our four assistant superintendents on how North Shore Learns version 2.0 is going out in the schools. Michael, can we start with you in the East, please?
Certainly, thank you. Good morning. The East region is continue to work hard. When I check in with principals, they tell me about the amazing work teachers are doing to ensure that they're connecting with their students and their families. I've also taken time to go over their school websites with them to take a look at the ease at which parents will be able to access the materials that are available. So when looking at, for example, East Ridge Elementary School's website, it's very easy for parents to be able to go in, find their specific student's teacher and or grade level, and access the materials needed for their learning. So it's exciting to see the work that's going on in those areas.
Thank you, Michael. And I know we've done website work at the district level too to accommodate quick access to these services, particularly at this time. So thank you. That's a great idea. Next, Obadiah, how are we doing in the North? And what is your background this morning? Is that some part of the University of Washington or?
Good morning. Yes, it is some part of the University of Washington. It's a good chunk of the University of Washington.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs. Much like in the East, things are moving forward with the learning in the North. As we've shared before, teachers are excited to be connecting with their students. Principals are very proud of the work their teachers are putting in. And at the same time, there are certainly wrinkles that they're working through as they problem solve and continue to iterate. Had a chance to talk with Mr. Matthias yesterday at Wellington, and as well as Mrs. Greger and Mr. McNeil at Leota, and all three administrators just very excited about the work going on. Mrs. Greger and Mr. McNeil in particular were sharing about some ways that they're starting to reach out to their families, just because they know that the life has shifted for their families, and just trying to figure out ways to make sure that they can support and be aware of what's going on with their families, and doing the same with their staff too, because we know that staff are impacted in many different ways. And while our teachers continue to work, some of their spouses may not. So that's the work going on in the North.
Thanks, Obadiah. It's so important for us to stay connected, and so appreciate all the efforts by our principals. So thank you for sharing that. Heather, how about things in the South?
Well, much like the others, things are going well. I had the opportunity to check in with a few principals yesterday, and two of them were reaching out to families that teachers had not been able to connect with at all for the last 2 to 3 weeks. And so they were really making a concerted effort to call every phone number they had on the emergency contact list, email, and to really find out what was happening with the family, and being able to then be responsive to those needs. So that was an effort from two of the schools I talked with yesterday. They really do care about our kids.
Yeah, thank you so much, Heather. I know there's a lot of mobility right now with families as well, just, you know, in their ability to gain employment. So just so thoughtful. Thank you. So David, Wellington, how are we doing in the West?
Yeah, the same in the West. Yesterday, we had an opportunity to meet with all the principals from the West. Two stories stand out for me. One from Crystal Springs, where the third grade team there had a parent orientation of sorts, where they had 50 parents show up virtually to be able to ask questions, hear about the schedule, learn about the different apps. Great opportunity for them to connect with the parents. And then over at Maywood Hills, they've had a couple of the playground supervisors have gotten together and had a couple of opportunities to have lunches for all students. It's an interesting experience for them, but playground supervisors are awesome with that kind of thing. I think it's been a combination of controlled chaos and judicious selection of the mute button, I suspect. But a great time, kids and staff.
It's really, it's impressive how innovative people are getting to try to maintain connections. So thanks for those examples, David. It's very helpful. So let's transition to food and nutrition services. Tracy Patterson, do we have an update, please?
Yes, yes, this is day 15 now that we've been serving meals. So far, we've served 38,432. Today, we had orders of 1,890 when I checked earlier this morning. So those will continue to grow through 9 a.m. this morning. And the nutrition services team is planning to continue with the meal service through spring break and beyond. I just wanted families to know that those services will still be available during the break.
Thank you, Tracy. I think it's really important for people to understand that we will continue with food and nutrition through the spring break. And we'll check in with Obadiah about what's going on with childcare in a few minutes. But thank you. It's hard to imagine we're closing in on 40,000 meals.
I know. Yeah, it's incredible.
It is incredible. So thank you. And thanks to all those doing that work on the front lines. Joe, how about transportation and support services?
It's pretty much steady as she goes. We're getting a lot of support from business services, especially on our construction, getting projects moved through, how we can actually get projects through approval and signs when nobody's in the building, which is pretty amazing. Thanks to business services and technology on that. Communications is doing a great job getting volunteers to help us with the food delivery, and we really appreciate those efforts. And HR has been helping just all over the place. So it's been a great team effort, and we really appreciate everything everybody's doing to keep us going so we can keep schools available for the daycare and the food service and keep the buses running so we can transport. It's a real team effort.
Yeah, thanks so much, Joe. Love that Northshore spirit. So Obadiah, how are we doing with child support sites and childcare for our families that are working right now?
We are continuing to run childcare. We're trying to figure out, kind of looking at different ways to support families. We will be running during spring break. But thank you to the North Shore Schools Foundation and Champions. North Shore Schools Foundation provided some scholarships for students in March who couldn't afford to pay otherwise. And so a big shout out there. And then Champions, kind of working with Champions on the price on that. Kathy Davis, principal of Ruby Bridges, as well as kind of taking care of all the childcare for us, has been working with Alan and his team to make sure that students showing up to childcare have devices, and they've been able to identify some kids that didn't have devices yet. So thank you to Alan and Sarah Lawrence and Kathy for kind of taking care of those students. And then Kathy and then Natalie Campbell from Communications are going to be working to identify some additional resources for families and post it on our childcare site, connecting families with respite care for students with significant needs, as well as in-home care needs that may be present in our community. So just trying to compile resources, even if they're not exactly our resources, just trying to make a place for families to go and kind of find some needs that might be unmet out there.
Thanks, Obadiah. I love the creative problem solving, and there are always needs and there are always solutions. So thank you. Appreciate that. Chris Bigelow, where are we on student socialization supports? And also a great shout out for a fabulous presentation yesterday at ATM on how to continue our equity work, whether we're online or in person. So just really thought it was very thoughtful.
Thank you, Michelle. So far as social isolation, I don't have anything new. I know we're all trying to get through this. I was thinking last night during talking to my kids and how they're trying to deal with this staying at home. And besides using resources online, which I told them about, they thought it was a good idea also just to find little projects around the house, around the apartment, just find ways to stay busy. I know they're finding many ways to stay connected to their friends. This afternoon, we're having a little happy hour get together, my kids and I at 5 o'clock. I think the point I'm making is just finding those little ways to connect with others. Everything we hear on the news is so negative, and I think we can find those forms of interactions, whatever they might be. It could definitely help the mood.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I was reading an article this morning early that this teenage group, particularly our seniors, were born after 9/11, and they've had experiences. They experienced the recession of 07, 08, some of the most prolific violence at schools, and now this. It's an interesting generation when you look at where they began and where they are. So keeping them connected, I think, is critical. Communications, Lisa, do you have a report for us?
Pretty brief. We yesterday announced Northshore Speaks, which is an opportunity for students, staff, community members to submit their spoken word or poetry on a platform called Flipgrid. And we're going to have some type of event on April 29th, whether virtual or in person. And anyone can go to nsd.org/Northshore Speaks to find out more and submit their information. It's National Poetry Month. And we're pretty excited about that. It's also an opportunity to kind of develop more connections out there between the students and with the students. And on Flipgrid, they can see each other's poetry and spoken word. We're also supporting or fielding any media calls. And also in your Thursday Thoughts last night, you shared about the ideas that educators and staff members or whatever everyone is doing to combat social isolation in pulling people together. And you asked everyone to share their ideas. And once they share with us, we will develop a tool to share them out.
Thanks, Lisa. I'm excited about that. And I love the idea of National Poetry Month. I can't think of when I last wrote a poem, but I think it'll be fun for all of us to do that in the coming days. Mine might be really short, but I don't know, we'll work on it. So thanks, really exciting. Business continuity, Tracy, I know I have seen a lot of DocuSign options here in the last 24 hours. Joe, Capital has been busy. Capital and Michael, we've been adding services as well. So Tracy, thoughts on business continuity?
Well, we as a team continue to keep things going, and we meet virtually. The entire business department meets virtually to maintain connectivity, but then really to problem solve together on how we can be innovative, such as this DocuSign process, just to automate a lot of our manual processes, like I mentioned yesterday.
Yep.
But it seems to be working, and I think it's good that we connect every day. I think it maintains the team spirit, and makes people feel not so isolated. So anyway, things are going as well as can be during this time.
All right, thanks so much, Tracy. Creative problem solving is the seed of innovation, right? And we're innovating like crazy. Yeah. Doug Hale, how are we doing in human resources?
We're doing great. In conjunction with business continuity, you want the overall payroll kind of structure to exist, but you question what happens with the one-offs. Are we nimble enough to handle the one-off situations that come up? And I met with Jody Miller, payroll manager, yesterday to finalize a couple of things that we needed to do in person, which shows that even the one-offs are getting taken care of. For example, an employee's bank account is closed. They don't notify us. They're not paid. We have to get them a check. And Jody is incredible and on top of that kind of thing. And so that was heartening to know that that even little things are getting caught.
Yeah, that's fabulous, Doug. I mean, I love the idea that we are a large district, right? The 8th largest in the state, but we still want to feel small and be able to meet people's needs where they are. So thank you so much.
And then we got the final piece of the puzzle yesterday, Yahoo, and put the calendar out for 2021.
I think that was epic, Doug. You could hear a cheer coming up from the community for having that calendar done and out. So thank you, you and Dugan and Tracy and all of the folks who worked on that with
all of us. Yep. And I've looked at that calendar so many times. If there's a mistake in it, I can't see it anymore. Tim, NSEA is the same way. So there's always seems like there's something we miss, but I think we got it. It's out there, and essentially all the dates and everything people can refer to and hopefully make plans as we get over this pandemic.
Thanks, Doug. I will share, and Lisa's being really calm about this, but just before I hit send on the Thursday thoughts, Alex went, we had misspelled first on the first day of school. So we did catch that before we sent it out. I know it's classic because you look at it 1,000 times and you don't see things, and I didn't see it either. So thank goodness Alex saw it for us. So Dugan, how about life in your section, your sector?
Well, everything's kind of going on the same path it's been on. I would like to make a couple of appeals this morning. One, we found out that we have some student athletes that have been showing up on campus to have student-led practices. And so an appeal to anybody watching, please stay home. And we've also had some members of the community, I won't necessarily say they're always our kids, that have been on campus getting up to no good. We had some boys that set up a skateboarding track on the roof of one of our schools the other day. And we don't want anybody to get hurt, so would appeal to parents and students to just stay home. And the last thing I will say is I learn something every day, and I learned two things this morning. Number one, Alan's background is absolutely stunning. And two, Obi, I did not know that there was a good chunk of the UW. So apparently there is.
Well, on the topic
Go
of
Cougs.
skateboarding on the roof, that is problematic for sure. So Dugan, thanks for those reminders. Parents, that second question about it, where are you going and what are you doing? Yeah, I think the stay-at-home order is so important right now for everybody. So thanks, Dugan. And Obadiah, we're with you. Let me go back to Alan for a technology update. And what is behind you there, Alan?
That, as we all know, is the most beautiful town in the state of Washington. That is Pullman. That is the Washington State University campus. Go Cougs, for certain. Dugan, you stole my fire on there. Other than where my daughter is at any given moment, I'm not sure there is a good part of the University of Washington campus. I agree. Let's see, it's stuff we've got going on. Learning new tools. Yeah, this morning, just to share our learning that we're doing here, we got a lot of motivated users in the district today learning new tools. We were learning how to mute other applications while you're on Zoom today. So Cabinet is learning new things also. I don't think we've ever had more motivated technology learners in the district than we do right now. It actually is, for me, one of the silver linings. Go Cougs.
Thank you, Ellen, for most of that. But actually, I think the other part we're realizing is there's so many modalities to learn in, because some of us are even slower at picking up technology than others. So Alan, I appreciate the patience, your patience, and that of the rest of the team too. So Tracy Malloy, do you want to share how our ATM went yesterday and other updates for professional development?
Yeah, sure. So the ATM was very well received. We had lots of thank yous to Dr. Stephen Gehring that appeared in the chat as our session was happening. The principals appreciated learning about some data that was hard to hear, especially about Washington State and how our schools rank in terms of supporting students in their post-secondary pursuits. However, the principals were also extremely motivated by the data in terms of how they can take action. And as part of the follow-up to the ATM, everyone was asked to send a message to someone on the ATM and copy me. And so I've been very fortunate to be able to read some of the very thoughtful and very meaningful ways that people are going to take action after having heard the data. And they're really thinking about how we can help all students see themselves as kids who can explore different opportunities for pursuing learning after they're done with high school. In addition, the presentation by Dr. Chris Bigelow and Ava Thomas and Rana Har was also well received. Everybody appreciated hearing about ways that we can use an equity lens when we are supporting students in a digital learning environment. It was extremely great information and everybody appreciated it very much. In terms of professional development plans, system-wide, there's really nothing new to report with that regard. However, I will say that there are definitely some very creative approaches to how the teams that I'm working with right now are thinking about professional learning. To Alan's point of the fact that there are a lot of motivated teachers and educators and other employees in Northshore who want to learn about technology skills, that is definitely something that's being supported right now. And there's a group of people who are working with IT to develop the next set of on-demand technology skill professional modules. They're very small, little snippets, sometimes 5 minutes up to 15 minutes in length. And this particular group of people are looking at how to incorporate universal design for learning into those particular modules so that while someone is learning about a technology skill, they're also understanding how it's a universal design support that can help all learners engage. The last things that I would like to add is that our induction mentors continue to support our first year and second year novice teachers. They're engaging them in small opportunities over the course of the week in voluntary opportunities to come together, to connect, and to think about how our first and second year teachers are supporting kids. And then the last thing that I would like to share is that this is the time of year where we're going to start talking about next year's student teachers. We still have some student teachers that are in our schools working with our teachers now, and I hope that they are partnering with their cooperating teachers in our distance learning environment. I know that many are. And that's fantastic. But for those teachers who are interested in hosting interns, there will be some emails coming forward in the next couple of weeks because I'll be sending out matches from our university partners and who have interested people coming to Northshore to learn how to become teachers.
Wow. Thank you, Tracy. There is still continuing all of the topics and aspirations people have had and trying to make sure we have all our ducks in a row, I think are really critical. So any other comments or topics before I make a couple last comments? Anything we missed? Okay, so just want to remind folks that next week is spring break. I will be on at 8 in the morning on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday just to do updates, but it won't be a traditional cabinet meeting because we wouldn't traditionally have a full cabinet meeting during spring break. The other thing I just want to share to Dugan's point and request about our students staying home and staying socially distanced. Next week, we're projected to have some really nice weather, which thank goodness, I think will lift all our spirits. It also, though, is projected the next couple of weeks to be the steepest part of the curve in the current pandemic, which means we expect the most significant number of cases accelerating as we hit this peak projected to be around April 11th to 19th, depending on the charts and how this situation is evolving. So it's the most critical time for us to socially distance. And I know it'll be tempting to try and gather because that's what we so yearn to do, each of us. But it's the most important time to not do that so that hopefully we can have a better summer and get together physically much sooner. So please remember to socially distance. Also know that there are a number of learning resources online on our website. So learning doesn't need to stop simply because it's spring break. I would like to challenge each of you to think about learning something new, mastering a new task in some way. For me, I'm going to try to learn how to use Flipgrid so I can do some type of a book review or poem, and technology is a challenge for me to learn. So I'm going to try to learn that as a new skill. Pick up a book and read it. Think about writing a piece of poetry. There's plenty to do that continues to occupy and engage our curiosity and our independent learning styles. So it's not a week to stop learning, it's simply spring break. So remember to social distance and we'll all get together a lot sooner and healthier. We'd like to see each of you back when we do get together. So for today, stay home, stay safe, and stay healthy, and have a fabulous North Shore break. Thanks.